Valve keeps winning, Steam keeps winning, and they really don't have to do much to accomplish that, as the gaming industry kind of burns itself to the ground. But in recent weeks and months, we've seen Valve making a number of highly anticipated moves. The Steam machine was finally unveiled, and it comes at the perfect time, as the console market really does need some true competition, and this could be a big thing. Price is really the question mark right now, but they said they finally have all the software and hardware bits to make the original vision a reality. And I truly hope that it creates a dent in the market share that right now Sony PlayStation is dominating. Although you could consider Nintendo in that, but they kind of do their own thing. Regardless, Microsoft's really backed off, and this space, the console space, just needs competition. The Steam machine could represent that, maybe. But there's also been look, Half-Life 3 seems like it could be releasing before Grand Theft Auto 6. That is just crazy to me, but rumors have been swirling. It seems like an announcement could be on the horizon. We'll see with that, but there's just been strong indication that this is going to be coming out alongside the Steam machine in early 2026, but we'll see what happens in that regard. And look, there's other things with the Steam machine. Valve recommending sharing your game library on a micro SD card. It's little things like this that gets a lot of people to appreciate Valve and Steam. You can take your catalog from your Steam Deck or from your Steam machine, and they're fully interoperable, so you can plug it in here and just bring it along with you. It is stuff like this that represents some of the good that Steam does bring to their hardware, not just necessarily their software with what they've been doing with Steam as a platform, but it must be mentioned that Steam is growing. It has become a behemoth just this last year. 41.6 million concurrent players. It's a record. They are continuing to grow, and everybody else is looking at them wondering how to take them down, and that just has not happened at all. And yeah, some of the biggest, most well-known, respected gaming studios in this industry are acknowledging this reality. Larian, Baldur's Gate 3 dev, saying Steam is successful because it's not a shit service, which, say what you will, there's a number of examples. One of those would be the EA launcher, which yeah, they had their massive launch a couple months ago, Battlefield 6, and it was so bad that Vincent Pella had to go on his official social media account and suggested that people that are affected by it to just refund and buy on Steam. And yes, again, you can throw up that meme of Gabe Newell, he does nothing and he automatically wins. This is an example of it. But there's also other things, like we had even just, this is earlier on in the year, Amazon saying that they were defeated by Steam. They never cracked the code. This was a competition that none of us knew was actually happening, but I guess Amazon was trying to take down Steam the whole time with all of their video game moves, and it resulted in massive failure. It's just rather notable. You see all these competitors that have been bringing it to Steam, but they're not really. They're doing half-ass effort, and they're failing ultimately because Steam is only getting better and better, especially for consumers and customers. One of those is also this move. This was a massive one. Steam to require AI disclosures on game submissions. And this is really important because a lot of gaming developers within this industry have been very mum on whether or not they're using AI for their video games. One of the biggest examples of that has to be Call of Duty. For the last couple of years, there's been strong rumors that they've been using this with some of their paid content, like, some of the skin packs and stuff like that, but it's only been assumptions and guesses and insider reports. Nothing official from Activision, because they've decided just to not at all talk about this before this year. And like I said, we had reports even saying that 2D artists were being laid off from the studio because they're making the move to go all in on AI. So yes, this is affecting employees at the studio as well as consumers, and nobody really is benefiting besides Activision and the overlords over there at Microsoft. Still though, Call of Duty finally updated earlier on this year after that disclosure rule came down from Steam, and yeah, they had to confirm that generative AI is being used after months of player speculation, and it has now been creating some uncomfortable conversations that are badly needed between the developer and gamers. One of those examples would be this conversation that happened with Treyarch just a couple of months ago in the lead up to Black Ops 7 before all of that AI slop with that game was revealed. And this was the word salad that they came up with. We live in a world now where there are AI tools. This is one of the lead developers, the associate creative director Miles Leslie. And then he went on to say, I think our official statement we said last year on Black Ops 6 is that everything that goes into the game is touched by the team 100%. Nobody believes that. We have generative AI tools to help us, but none of that goes in game, and that's total BS. This is great evidence of that. And then you're going to say, yeah, but it has. I'll say it has been by accident, and that was never the intention. We've come out, we've been very clear that we use these as tools to help the team, and that's the thing. A lot of people are fine with AI as long as it is being used as a tool. But a lot of these developers, a lot of these companies just blatantly lying about it because it is all about replacing people. But they do not replace any of the fantastic team members. That's total BS because we already, like I said, this was already leaked, unless he just considers these people not fantastic team members that were fired. The fantastic team members we have that are doing the final touches in building that content to put in the game. So everything you play, human created and touched, AI tools in the world we live in. It's how do we streamline it? That's really the goal, not replace, but streamline. And then he was confronted by IGN, as I talked about in a previous video. It was hilarious about, Black Ops 6, the examples of the now infamous six-fingered zombie Santa bundle. He was asked, why is that still in the game? His response, good question. Not my department. All-time deflection there. Well, like I said, Activision has now admitted it, and they are going to have these uncomfortable conversations in the future, and they deserve all of the outrage that they're enjoying because of this slop that they've been implementing into their game. And the big thing people need to know, we're not benefiting from this. We're not seeing, lower costs for these bundles. The games aren't being cheaper. All we're being fed is them making sure that their pockets are a little bit more full. And then there's also the fact that Ubisoft, another company that was exposed because of these new Steam disclosure rules. Ubisoft says AI-generated art in Anno 117 was a placeholder which slipped through our review process. I'm not familiar with this game all that much, but yeah, it's pretty obvious that this was generative AI that they just threw in the game, because it does seem like a lot of these companies just don't care about the products that they're putting out. The team uses AI for iterations, prototyping, and exploration, Ubisoft says. And yes, again, the game's Steam page includes an AI-generated content disclosure. That was the strongest indication, although people can find this stuff pretty easily, as is required by Steam for any game that uses AI during development, which states that AI tools were used to create some in-game assets, but stresses that in all such cases, the final product reflects our team's craft and creative vision. I love those bullshit excuses they put at the end to try to defend it. But it goes on to mention that the image was a placeholder asset that unintentionally slipped through our review process, the publisher told Kotaku. The final image is attached here, will replace the current version of the artwork with the upcoming patch. And yeah, this is the reality of the video game industry moving forward. Controversy and conversation about how AI is being implemented into these premium game experiences. And by no means am I saying all AI is bad. I definitely think that there is uses of it. This is a great example of it, an AI motion plugin for Blender, Unity, and UE5. It can convert character motion into video into 3D data. That's cool. That is a great use. That can actually, prevent the immense amount of times that artists would have to do to something like this. But unfortunately, from the AAA games industry, the uses that we're hearing about AI, it's not really in regards to this. It's in regards to generative AI, in which the legality of that's something to be decided in the courts, but it's just rather notable that the uses of it we're seeing from the big franchises, the big publishers of Activision and Call of Duty. It's being done in the most scummy way possible, and it's only benefiting the top of these companies. And that's why I think it is very much important that a platform like Steam, which represents where a lot of people go to play their games, it is the top dog of this gaming industry, and it has made this a mandatory disclosure. That is sending a message. That's transparency. That's what we badly need at this time. But unfortunately, not everybody sees it that way. Epic Games CEO spoke out against this, saying that AI disclosure like Steam's make no sense because AI will be involved in nearly all future video game development. No fucking shit, Tim Sweeney. No shit. Like, we all know that. But the way that it's being used is something that should be talked about, should be described. These companies and everybody should be giving more details about the ways they're using it, because there is scummy ways and there's also more ethical ways. But Sweeney, in his full remark, he was responding to somebody, Matt Workman, not sure who this individual is, but he says Steam and all digital marketplaces need to drop the made with AI label. It doesn't matter anymore. Sweeney jumped in saying, agreed, the AI tag is relevant to art exhibits for authorship disclosure and to digital content licensing marketplaces where buyers need to understand the right situation. It makes no sense for game stores where AI will be involved in nearly all future production. Oh, Tim Sweeney.
It's the biggest piece of dog shit that I have ever heard.
His contribution to the video game industry is Fortnite, pretty much. I get he's done a lot of other stuff, probably stuff I'm not thinking of, but it's also just UE5, like Unreal Engine, the disaster game engine that has really defined this generation in really bad ways. Yeah, almost all of the games that are coming out with UE5 have had horrific launches, and he has blamed directly developers for that. So Sweeney's contributions to this video game industry, I genuinely think that there is jealousy. Like, this is what happens when you have these billionaire figures. They want to be beloved gods in these spaces from everybody below them, and Sweeney doesn't get that. And I think there is jealousy that people embrace Gaben. You know, he has that nickname, Gaben, Gabe Newell. They love him, and they don't love him. And I think that does genuinely irk him, especially because of the popularity of Steam and the fact that Epic Games Store just never happened. But look, he's not the only one. We've heard some other smaller developers speak out against this AI reporting requirement, but all it reads to me is that these companies, these individuals, these people pushing it, they don't want transparency. And that's because they want to hide behind what we just saw with Activision. They don't want to actually have to talk about the unethical shit that they're pulling behind the scenes and the fact that developers are losing their jobs and consumers, they're not benefiting at all from any of this. All it's doing is going to be something that lines up the pockets for these billionaire executives and make them more and more money, while, you know, the lower people are going to be suffering for it. And the Epic Games Store, they've been going at Steam for a while now, especially in regards to AI. This is just notable because back in 2023, where this really started to emerge and starting to pick up, they went after Valve because Valve originally wasn't in favor of having AI games on their platform at all. They changed their tune a little bit. They do allow the games on there, but there definitely was some rules that they put in place after that. But yeah, this was Tim Sweeney. He went on the attack in 2023. This was him advocating for the Epic Games Store over the fact that Valve wasn't allowing it on there. No AI in games on Steam. Put it on the Epic Games Store. We don't ban games for using new technologies. Okay there, Tim. Okay there. And yeah, there just needs to be mentioned that the reason why I'm saying that there's jealousy, it's not even just that. We've seen that the Epic CEO, Tim Sweeney, in emails with Gabe Newell, this was leaked in a lawsuit, you know, the discovery phase, thank God for that. But yeah, he got into actual arguments with Steam, and there was some very interesting conversations that I think a lot of people don't understand happened. But yeah, Sweeney called Valve assholes over Steam fees and dug up email thread. You mad bro is what a Valve executive responded with. And yeah, these are old email threads that have been dug up as part of a lawsuit against Steam. The email thread spotted by Game Discover Co. was between Sweeney and Valve head Gabe Newell discussing the economics of the Steam platform, and began in 2017 with an email from Newell to Sweeney pointedly asking anything we doing to annoy you, and referencing a post from Valve's Sean Jenkins about restricting Steam keys given to developers. Sweeney responded instead on the economics of these 30% platform fees, which he described as no longer justifiable. In short, he said the marketing benefits of the Steam storefront is far disproportionate to the fee thanks to the churn of new game releases. And then the email thread was followed up in 2018 after Valve implemented a sliding scale for its royalty payments to reduce its cut on the highest grossing games to 25 or even 20%, citing network effects of big games. And then it goes on talking about, you know, Epic Games Store's massive dispute with Apple and such, and it mentions that taking out his anger on Valve at the time, right now you assholes are telling the world that the strong and powerful get special terms while 30% is for the little people. We're all in for a prolonged battle if Apple tries to keep their monopoly, and 30% by cutting backroom deals with big publishers to keep them quiet. Why not give all developers a better deal? What better way is there to convince Apple quickly that their model is now totally untenable? Amusingly, this thread was then internally forwarded by Valve COO Scott Lynch to both Gabe Newell and Eric Johnson, saying, "You mad bro?" And as I said before, there is certainly some animosity between Tim Sweeney and Gabe Newell, and it's been going on for many years. But no, this is not where the situation ends, because Tim Sweeney went on the attack in regards to some of the responses to his take on Steam's AI disclosure policy. We first of which had this, somebody saying, "No, Tim, the customers deserve to know," and Sweeney responded saying, "Why stop at AI use? We could have mandatory disclosures for what shampoo brand the developers uses. Customers deserve to know, LOL. Now, besides sounding like a raging narcissist here, he's using a false equivalency, and he knows it. he knows it, but this person does point out rightfully the fact that, the Epic Game Store apparently doesn't have user reviews, or notices about kernel-level anti-cheat, notices about the use of third-party launchers, notices of third-party EULAs. The customers deserve to know, but I don't think Tim Sweeney very much likes transparency. We also had this one, somebody pointing out that HP is cutting up to 10% of its workforce as part of AI push, and then somebody responding saying AI. This is starting to feel like when companies blame 4X for earnings misses, and Sweeney sarcastically saying maybe HP's new AI can figure out how to paint a black and white document without demanding the user buy yellow ink. And we obviously had some industry reactions, some people, gaming creators, the Ackman saying the consumer deserves to know if a game they may want to purchase was made in tandem with AI. It's the same way they deserve to know if game has been compromised by loot boxes and gambling mechanics. Advocating for otherwise just makes you an anti-consumer. Yeah, I would agree with that. Legendary drops. Tim, I want to let you know this right here is why you'll never beat Steam. Making no sense for game stores, but it does make sense for customers. We don't need a cash register. We need transparency and a voice. And yeah, that thing with the Epic Game Store, they didn't think about customers at all. And I think that really personifies the problems with the Epic Game Store and why it has been a massive failure. But we'll get to that in a second. We also had Cultus Zolan, another individual, saying, why is every tech executive so obsessed with forcing AI on everyone these days? Because it's going to make them, it's the prospect of, it's like the new gold rush. That's just the best way to describe it. All of these possibilities of what it can do in the future. In the last few weeks, the number of these people who have forced a narrative AI is normal and everywhere now, get over it, so let's hide the fact it's involved, has rapidly increased too. Did pointing out the AI investment circle jerk really scare them all so much? And I think a little bit. And we also had somebody else responding and pointing out rightfully about Steam, saying that it discloses which DRM games use, which anti-cheat measures are in place, whether a game has difficulty options, subtitle sound options, and a plethora of other information on features which are expected in 99% of games. Should Steam stop showing that information as well? More information is a good thing, and I very much endorse that perspective. Frost of Rivia, another individual, another creator, saying, this just feels like a basic fumble from a store perspective. Why wouldn't you want customers to have more ways to find what they want to buy? If I don't want games with roguelike elements, I filter them out. If I don't want games with AI elements, let me filter them out. And ultimately it is because they want to push this down our throats, regardless if you want it or not. And I think a lot of gamers really don't care about the use of AI. I think people just genuinely want good games, but there definitely is a certain amount and a decent amount of people that just don't want AI slop at all. And I very much think that these individuals, Tim Sweeney, other business executives that work in this industry, they just kind of want to remove or normalize what's happening right now. Normalize the future, condition us to just accept this, and also make us accept paying $80, $90, $100 and whether microtransactions and other BS monetization schemes that they implement into the future. It's all about normalization of stuff like this. And like I said, the Epic Game Store, I genuinely think that there's animosity because this never happened. You know, Tim Sweeney wanted to take over Steam. He wanted to be the top dog, and he strong-armed himself with his Fortnite money and tried making it happen. But the one thing that they didn't think of was consumers, customers. That was basic. We talked about this extensively around 2019, 2020 when all the exclusives were happening and games were being removed from Steam. It was the fact that the Epic Game Store had basic, like, barely any features at all. It was a horrific place to buy and play games on, and it took them years to develop stuff. And just recently, just this last week, they just added a gifting option. That's fucking embarrassing. But this is par for the course with this company. The Epic Games Store is making the industry better, but gamers don't see that. That's what he said in 2019 when people were criticizing the fact that they were gobbling up all these exclusives and they barely even had a functional store at the same time. And then, surprise, surprise, a couple of years later, we found that they spent at least $1 billion on exclusives. And then furthermore, we found out that the Epic Games Store exclusivity deals were not good investments because it didn't make them the new monopoly. Because Tim Sweeney and Epic Games never chose to understand why Steam is so popular and so beloved. They didn't even try. The only company that I have seen actually given some of the effort is CD Projekt's GOG, and I do wish that that was a little bit more popular, but it's not, and it should be. But Sweeney tried spending his billions of dollars by grabbing all of these publishers, and the thing is, these publishers immediately went back to Steam because consumers didn't want anything to do with the Epic Game Store. That's why when we had Randy Pitchford, the Gearbox CEO, saying that he predicted that the Epic Game Store was going to be around around in 5 to 10 years. It was going to be more popular than Steam. And recently he had to admit that, yeah, he was totally wrong on that. And that was because Sweeney he ruined this from the get-go, the way that they went about their Epic Games Store. And this is another thing that was just revealed just a couple of years ago. 5 years after it took on Steam, Epic Games Store is yet to make a penny of profit. Just really not surprising at all. But look, this AI future is coming. It is very much here. I think we all understand that. And I'm going to have a more extensive video. I was already planning on talking about this. That'll be probably in the next couple of days. We'll see on it. But Gabe Newell has commented on AI even recently. He says that this is the future. He said game developers who don't know how to use AI will struggle. So he's not necessarily endorsing it, but he does say, yeah, this is coming. This is the future. And there's been other companies like Take-Two, Electronic Arts, they are warning of reputational risks involving AI because they very much see the reaction that is coming from consumers right now. And it is anger with AI slop, especially the efforts that we've seen in the AAA games industry thus far, which have been they've been bad. And Ubisoft is going all in on this technology. The Ubisoft boss even compared generative AI as big of a revolution for games as the shift to 3D. We'll see all in all of that. All I know is right now, it seems like this video game industry wants to do their best efforts to hide all of the AI work that they're doing behind the scenes, but a platform like Steam is not allowing that to happen, and I think for consumers' sake, transparency, that is good. And I hope that we continue to see moves like this from Steam because they are a platform that is leading by example. They don't get everything right. They have a lot of issues. I've called them out multiple times over the years over that. CSGO, the gambling stuff with that will always haunt them, but times like this with AI, their disclosure policy, that is meaningful. That is meaningful for the video game industry, and it is having an impact and angering Tim Sweeney of Epic Games. But anyway, what do you make of AI and its uses in video games? What do you make of Tim Sweeney's remarks? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below, but thank you for watching. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this video, or if you found any informative value. Consider subscribing for more videos like this, and I'll see you later.